one's permission to record. I'm really, really excited to have Dr. Ani Rostomyan joining us from Los Angeles, actually. But I did not realize, Anna Bennett, that I was the one who was supposed to be presenting her. So I think who better to present than Dr. Ani herself. So Dr. Ani, in like a couple of words, just tell us a little bit about your background, and then we'll jump right into the presentation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I want to, again, thank everyone for joining. Busy times. Imagine the things we have to catch up. It's end of year, and I'm very, very grateful for the opportunity to be here. And thanks to my dear friend Anna Bruno to spread awareness, spread our expertise, knowledge, and our own experiences on the topic we selected. And again, joining from Los Angeles, but I think with AIWA, our hearts are everywhere. We are everywhere. We're international, and that's how we're stronger together. So I'm Ani Rostomyan. I am a clinical pharmacist, and I work and live in Los Angeles. I'm also an entrepreneur and coach, and to be announced, later with my dear friend Anna Bruno. We have some very, very exciting projects coming up. So please stay tuned, follow us, and be informed of all the good events we're planning together. My main profession is clinical pharmacy, healthcare, and I'm so glad I chose the profession back in Armenia when, I went to pharmacy school there. I moved here already as a pharmacist. I was 26 years old. I was a graduate of Yerevan State Medical University. I came to United States with big dreams, goals, aspirations to become the pharmacist, learn the culture, integrate myself to this new society. And of course, hello, Karine. Hello from Glendale. Oh, nice. So of course, I've had, as anyone else, right, setbacks, challenges, adverse situations in life. But what makes us stronger? And we're going to talk more about our resilience. So today's topic, let me quickly share my screen, and I will quickly go on to the presentation. Do you see my screen?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so the reason we chose this topic, building the resilient you in 3 achievable steps, such a broad topic, such an interesting thing to talk about, right? But we are trying to teach and trying to convey an information to all of you to utilize very doable, actionable 3 exercises that you can implement every day in your life to become a better version of yourself. So what I've been trying to accomplish all these years is, before pandemic, I had this impression that I have to do it all. I have to achieve it all. I have, tremendous amount of energy, tremendous amount of drive and, perseverance, but I did not realize that we need to also nurture ourselves. And I came to a point myself when I hit that burnout during pandemic as a healthcare worker, and I didn't want to bring that version of me home every day. So that's how I started learning more about, human self-development, our inner strengths. And if you ask me, of all the accomplishments, of all the things I've achieved, of all the things I've learned as a pharmacist, what is it that I cherish the most is the learning and desire to learn human nature, human behavior, to understand why some people make prudent health choices, why some people are stronger than others. And I'm so proud of that part of my learning, which is ongoing learning. We're all going to be, doing this self development through, end of our lives. But I'm most proud of that part of my own development where I've kind of hit the roadblock myself, burned out during, pandemic, and then started, asking questions. What is it that, makes us stronger? What kind of experiences do we have to go through to make us stronger? So working as a pharmacist and, also as the pharmacogenomics pharmacist, I help doctors choose right medications for patients based on their genetics. So that's how I got into a field of, resilience, epigenetics, to understand that we're all unique, to understand that we're all individuals, and we all have innate ability to heal regenerate our energy, and utilize non-medicinal ways of healing. That came from my sad realization of how many hundreds of people and patients I saw struggling and relying only on medications, medications to help them with all kinds of inner problems they had. And that situation is actually not getting any better. It's actually getting worse. And we're going to talk more about it. But that's how I decided to help my patients with understanding how strong they are, with really focusing back to understand their, what drives them to make all those changes, what inspires them. And today's topic, we decided to speak about resilience because, oh boy, as a nation, as Armenians, as a culture, have we been tested and challenged more than, I guess, compared to other nations, more than ever before with our resilience? Have we gone through, as Armenians, as culture, as ethnicity, through so many challenges, and did we have a choice but not to be resilient? So I kind of give ourselves a huge credit as a culture, saying that we are one of the most resilient and strongest nations. We regenerate, we are rebirthing, and we are getting more out of nothing. So proud to be one of them. I truly feel that emphasizing those traits, giving ourselves that kind of the courage and teaching ourselves like, hey, we are a strong nation. We can be as resilient as we can, and training resilient generation. So what we're going to be learning today, objectives are not too vast because it's a very broad topic, not to focus on everything about resilience. We're going to focus on 3 objectives today. We will learn how to utilize very simple 3 exercises in our life to strengthen our resilience. We are going to practice brain-based strategies to offset our negativity bias. We are going to shift the way our brain interprets and responds to stress or problems. And we're going to develop a toolbox full of resilience building skills. We're going to utilize also mindfulness to reset our nervous system. So going back to even the question, what is resilience? How do we understand that? And there's many definitions quite close to each other. Some of them mention is, resilience is the ability to bounce back from difficult experiences and adapt to that change. It is crucial in the face of adversity and can be developed through practice and positive thinking. And I truly feel that building resilience can help us and everyone else to thrive and prosper as personally and professionally. But I do want to add another definition to this, to add how I feel what resilience is. Resilience is also using those negative experiences, trauma, setbacks, adversities, and using them as catalyst for our progress. We have to acknowledge them, we have to live with them, but we have to use them in our benefit and not become the victim of those circumstances. So resilience term came along in 1970s when there was a lot of research, being done and started in studying children at risk, developing, psychopathologies based on the illnesses, trauma or neglect on various adverse circumstances children were, exposed to. So researchers noticed that portion of children really were able to cope with all that and live fulfilling lives and recover, and a very, very small portion of children were not. Actually, they developed chronic illnesses or PTSD, and they were debilitated throughout their life. So that's how it progressed to become a cornerstone of a discipline, now psychology, subsection of psychology called positive psychology. So yes, anxiety, stress, burnout, they're at an all-time high. We understand that. And if we don't make time to reset, the physical and psychological results can be catastrophic, right? I think resilience more than ever makes it makes sense for all of us to practice it consciously. That's why we're here today. That's why we're talking about this, because the days and the times we're living, globally, we're not even talking about just one country. Globally, times are getting tougher, and we have no choice but to be resilient despite any other circumstance. And as I mentioned, resilience is way more than the ability to get back after you've been, knocked down. It's your ability to take that experience and use it and move forward with it and become the newer version of yourself, but not becoming a victim of that circumstance, as I said. So this is one of my favorite quotes about resilience. The oak fought the wind and was broken. The willow bent when it must and survived. I want to mention that, as we know, more and more organizations now are turning to resilience trainings to help their employees manage stress, navigate change, and overcome obstacles and setbacks. I think after pandemic, companies realized that they have issues of maintaining employees and human resources, human power. Now they're going back to teaching their staff and employees how to utilize those skills to retain them, because employee turnover has reached its peak as we speak now. And then there's some good research about it that shows that organizations that provide resilience trainings have employees who are more productive, more engaged, higher performing, and have greater well-being as a result. So, question for the audience:
I'm sorry, this is Dr. Ada Azarian. May I ask who is Robert Jordan?
Robert Jordan is, I think that quote is an author. I will put in, there's a book about this author, and I love this quote. And I kind of thought that this is so relevant for our today's talk, because this also resembles our culture. Absolutely. I will talk more about Robert Jordan later. So, question for audience, and answer, comment in the chat box however you feel what is the right answer. And I will also, express and put an input of how I feel what is resilience and whether it's inherited or learned. If you feel it's inherited, just put inherited. If you feel it's learned, just put is learned. AIWA both. Learned. Anna Bennett. Both. I see both and learned. Interesting. Excellent. So there's a debate, right? Whether resilience is inherited or learned. It's an ongoing debate. Some studies should suggest that genetics plays a huge role in a person's ability to bounce back from adversity. However, research also shows that resilience is a skill that can be learned and developed through various methods, such as therapy, building a support system, and practicing mindfulness. If you ask my opinion on what is the answer that I feel is the most accurate, I think it's both. Resilience is, yes, inherited, but there's also very good news on the horizon that it's also a learned skill. It may be a combination of both.
Sorry,
right?
can we formulate it in a little bit different way? Can we say that there is a innate resilience and there is a learned resilience? There are two kinds of resilience.
There is an innate resilience, which we're born with. And I want to give ourselves a credit as a nation. Armenians are pretty much one of the resilient nations on earth based on our own experiences and history. And then there's learned resilience. You're absolutely right. And ultimately, it's a combination of both, right? Nature and nurture that contributes to person's resilience. So
Well,
there comes this.
may I just add to that point, Dr. Annie?
Absolutely.
Another point. This is Anna Bennett. So I think, to my opinion, based on my own research and understanding, it is learned. It is a skill. It is a learned skill. And when we're talking about innate resilience, just because, for example, we're Armenians, we've been through this and that. But if you really go deep to the core of it, it is still learned. We're not born with resilient genes. We are born, but from the get-go, even being, in the belly, all that conversations, all that those emotions, all those things, it is prepositioning or predispositioning us to be more flexible in situations when things needed. Because if I'm looking, my generation was very resilient and still is very resilient generation. And I'm looking at the same Armenian generation of my, say, younger generation, right? Our children, etc., and their children. And I don't see much resilience there. So I disagree. Basically, my point is I disagree that it is innate, because it is just monkey see, monkey do. And because, we have 10-year-old kids that are more understand politics more better than some 60 years old. It's just because the way they've been exposed to the life and they've been exposed to the things, right? So resilience is something that is built up, is learned, is a skill. That's my take. And I don't believe that it comes as innate.
Fantastic. You gave an amazing introduction to my next point, Anna. So being a genomics pharmacist, and I've researched and I've been doing a lot of pharmaco and nutrigenomics, and epigenetics is part of what we're going to be talking about. And when you mentioned young generation being less resilient, it's the environment, it's the nurture part of it that's lacking, because our kids, they feel like everything is provided for them, right? Why would they have to work
That's what I'm
hard for it?
saying. It is
Exactly.
part of epigenetics. It's just that whatever you grow up, the environment, that's what you pick up.
Exactly. But I'm going to tell you one interesting thing about the genetics of resilience. And I wrote an article last year about it. There's actually genes that are located in our genome that are responsible for resilience. And this is a phenomenal area of study that's really promising. Right now, we don't have much evidence, but there are really qualities that we carry in our genome that are predisposing us to be stronger than other species, right? So if we don't use them, we lose them, right? Nature and nurture. So unfortunately, those outer, how do I say it? The outer influences, environment, nutrition, lifestyle, stress, even the city we live in, even the economies we live in, greatly impact that. And epigenetics is, for those of you who are not aware of epigenetics, epi literally means above, right? Anything that's above our genome, that's outside of our genome, is a study, is a discipline of changes in gene expression that occur without any alteration to our underlying DNA. And these changes are heritable and can be passed down from one generation to another. If I wanted to explain epigenetics, layman, simple words, let's take identical twins. One has a good life, one has a really good social, interactions, one is given opportunities in life, and one doesn't. One has trauma, one has abuse, one has illnesses, one has lots of other circumstances. And this is why over time the identical twins come to look and even behave differently. And the newest data that we see about epigenetics, what is it? All of our habits, our nutrition, our lifestyle, our stressors, everything is passed down now through our generations. Imagine if we get weaker and then our generations are weaker. So our biggest responsibility now is to live that meaningful life, to teach the younger generation that this is what you're going to, what are you going to be inheriting. So this is just in short thinking of, both, or it's either or what if the genetics has lesser impact and the environment has bigger impact? What if it's not 50-50? What if it's 30-70? So, but I strongly believe that the two components have very, very, big impact on our resilience in many forms: physical, mental, social, and all kinds. So let's dive into some numbers. I really don't like to give too many numbers because sometimes it may not be accurate, but what we've been reading is 50% of population, 1 in 2, there's 10 of us here, at least 5 of us will experience some traumatic event during our life. That's just a fact. In my opinion, that is more than 50%. There's more people who will be affected by this. But yet, the prevalence of PTSD is very small, right? We do see a very, very small portion of general population developing situations or diseases that are really affecting their growth and are actually diagnosable conditions. So why is it? There's many explanations to that, but before COVID, before pandemic, there was this company, Everyday Health, this health company that partnered up with Ohio State University. And I think that research, that survey took place at the most, the peak of COVID, the peak of pandemic, where people really were shocked. That was a shock that was given to all of us. So they enrolled about 3,600 adults and did survey. The results were interesting. And underneath this section I highlighted, and I have put in the link for those of you who are interested to know. Before the survey, before the questions were answered, 83% claimed that they have high levels of resilience. And the biggest aha moment, aha of that survey, that only after taking the questions, answering the questions, only 57% scored resilient when they were taking the assessment to measure their personal resilience. So 83% thought they are resilient. Why wouldn't they? And what really was interesting in that survey, a lot of people didn't know, only 50% of respondents knew that there's a link between financial wellness and emotional wellness, although they claimed that they believed that financial wellness affects personal wellness, but they didn't know that they're very much connected, right? So this survey is one of many that are available for us to read. And this was done in times where it was like people were living in great stress, unknown, uncertainty. But what it tells us is we need to work harder. We need to do more. We need to really train ourselves to be more resilient and increase our awareness on what is actually resilience practice. What do we do that's right and what do we do that's wrong? So moving on to our next point, today there's many exercises that are building resilience, and there's many coaches who will give you tons of exercises and increase your awareness and just sharpen the toolbox of your resilience skills. What we need to do today is we will focus on our mindset, our skill set, and reset, right? First, we will understand our brain. We will understand the belief systems that can both support or sabotage our resilience. During those skill set exercises, we will learn how to cultivate positive emotions, make stress work for us, not be the hostage of the stress, and engage in activities that proactively build resilience. And reset. Reset is when we step out of reactivity to focus on what is most important, resetting our nervous system, priorities, and perspectives. And let me tell you something, highly resilient and successful people know when to step back, know when to take rest, and know when to distract themselves from the activities that make them stressed or overwhelmed, or they're getting close to burnout. So highly resilient and highly aware people, they know when to take that break. There's questions in the chat. I love this guy now. Okay, we'll address the questions later. As a result of being resilient and as a result of focusing on what's working and what's not working, I really want us to talk about gratitude. I really want us to talk about practicing gratitude consciously. And what is gratitude? If you have any suggestions, any ideas on what gratitude is and what you have in your mind, in your explanation, type it in the chat. We'll read that. We'll read that for sure. So in my opinion, gratitude has two components. Gratitude has, the first component is, yes, being thankful for acknowledging the good that exists in our lives, right? But the second component I think is very, very important is gratitude is also sharing that appreciation with others. Gaina said, seeing the blessings in our lives, not just complaining. I love it. Absolutely. And let me tell you something. Practicing gratitude does not mean that you ignore the negative and wear rose-colored glasses. And it simply means that you're really focused on and you're actively in search of what is good in your life, right? There's a lot of negative, there's a lot of positive happening. So the way our brain works is 70 to 80% of our thoughts are negative and repetitive. That's just how we are, right? Our brain looks for the path of the least resistance, and negative thoughts are easier to process. Negative experiences are immediately stored in our memory. But positive experiences require them to be held in awareness for longer time. So positive experience wants us to think about it for a few more seconds and hold it in our move it from short to long-term memory storage. But what's fascinating about us as humans, we don't focus as much on positive experiences as much as we focus on negativity, right? And we rarely do this. So we spend a lot of time focusing on negative, and repeated practice of that becomes a behavior and a habit. So what is it? Repeated practice of anything becomes a habit. So if we keep practicing negativity, do we become negative because of it? What do you think? Lena said, I start and end my day with a list of 3 things that I'm grateful for. Wonderful. Karina, I love teaching gratitude to my second graders. Absolutely. But gratitude is also, it's not just a feeling of being grateful. Gratitude has lots of physiological consequences. It triggers a cascade of physiological changes in your body, physiological and psychological changes in your body. It signals safety to our brain and activates the parasympathetic nervous system. What is that? What is parasympathetic nervous system? Which activating parasympathetic nervous system, we promote relaxation, lowers our heart rate, reduces blood pressure, and eases our muscle tension, creating a sense of calm and well-being. So by practicing gratitude, we send, signals to a portion of our brain called amygdala, and we decrease the feeling of fear and anxiety. That in turn activates portions of our brain that are associated with pleasure and reward, promoting very well-known neurotransmitter, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin. So practicing gratitude, and it's studied widely now, is really making us healthier, physically healthier. And the simple act of looking for something to be grateful for and what's working versus what's not working it drops our stress hormone cortisol level by 23%. So there's more studies showing that this is actually helping us physically, physiologically. So resilient people consciously choose to focus on what's working and being thankful for it, which makes them healthier. So today's first exercise we're going to be doing, and I think it's absolutely doable for now. Every day you can dedicate 1 minute to exercise and make yourself more resilient and focus what's working versus what's not working. So I chose 3 very doable short exercises, and we're going to talk about the first one now, is the exercise of 3 Ps. What you can do is take index cards, write down this one sentence on top of it: people who are resilient. ... People who are resilient. What do they do? The number 1 sentence on your first index card will be, they perceive effects of bad events as temporary, not permanent. Something happened at work. There's some issues at work. Something happened with your, I don't know, business. Something didn't really go well. Does this mean?
Excuse me, as temporary, you mean transient?
Transient, absolutely. Temporary, meaning like when is it going to end, right? It has a beginning and end. Temporary. So people who are resilient, they understand that those adverse events are not going to stay forever in their life, and they focus on, once they're done, they're going to be continuing to focus on positivity. Something, people are laid off, people change jobs, people lose money on their financial decisions, something really big happens. The next sentence you're going to write on your second index card: people who are resilient prevent setbacks from affecting other areas of their life. This is very, very important for all of us to understand. Personal life or the professional, we don't transfer those feelings, emotions, and situations to the other areas of your life. Your parenting, you as a child to your older parents, or you as a sibling or a colleague. Resilient people do not let those situations affect other areas of their lives. And remember, very rich people, CEOs, very high decision makers, owners of big, yes, Anna, you're muted.
When you're finished, I'll ask you a question.
Sure. So let's imagine Amazon, right? Let's just talk about Amazon CEO. They open their emails every day. There's things happening in their lives. How do they react to it is what matters. They're not going to let any negativity to hijack their nervous system, because they have that ultimate goal and purpose to go further. I'm just taking Amazon as an example, but the third one you're going to write down is people who are resilient pivot to whatever new approach is needed. What do you think it means? Are we going to talk about agility to kind of reroute our efforts, change our strategy, and don't let that adversity to affect our ultimate goal? We're going to pivot to whatever new approach is needed. We're going to think of that bigger goal still, but we're going to change the way to get it. So pivoting to whatever new approach is needed. You're going to have these 3 sentences on those index cards. You will practice them daily, or you can memorize them as a 1-minute exercise. Anna, yes.
So my question was, it's easier said than done when there's, some stressor is happening, let's say at work or whatever. And it's very difficult not to transfer it to your, let's say, personal life. Are there any specific suggestions that you would have? How do we consciously make sure that we're combating it? Because like I said, it's easier said than done, because once you get upset, it's hard to not to bring it to home, for example.
Absolutely. And this is what we need to keep getting better at it, keep getting better at it. We're always going to be learning this. We're always going to be trying to better ourselves in the way we react to it. Number one thing we have to understand is by becoming super aware of that situation and becoming mindful and being very non-judgmental, very self-loving and kind to ourselves, to give ourselves permission to be upset. But also think of others. How would this affect my child's life, my spouse's life? This is a very intentional practice that's not going to happen in one day. But whatever is practiced behavior every single day becomes a habit. So I couldn't be bragging about it that I'm 100% able to do it, but I'm getting there. I'm a work in progress. I can't talk about my husband, my spouse, any kind of stressful situation that happens in his work. I don't even know about it. I don't know how he does it. I'm gonna, learn from him as well. But it's also being so understanding towards your feelings, letting yourself feel stressed, but also understand that just to kind of take my example as a pharmacist during COVID, I didn't want to bring that that tired, that scared, that overworked and burnt out mom to home and say, hey, this is me after, 9-10 hours of work. I didn't want to have them see that person as their parent. So this is how I turned into mind work. This is how I turned into self-development. It is a daily practice. And I love the word proactive. That's one of my favorite words of all kinds of, healthcare situations, in healthcare, medicine, self-development, being proactive. We don't wait until something happens, then we react and become resilient. We take measures. We also understand that we need to have that toolbox ready when something happens. Like what I was doing really that was helping me to distress and not bring that home is breathing exercises. I was really working on asking myself question, is this going to be gone tomorrow? Is this situation going to be resolved in a week? What really helped me, Anna, understand is if this is not going to matter in a month, then I should not be preoccupied with it all day. That really helped, but it's a process. So kind of go with it, train yourself, but remember, if something is not going to matter in a month, I know it's hard, but you have to be also letting that situation resolve the way it should, and don't take charge or ownership of all kinds of outcomes. Don't need to model for our children how to be resilient. Don't we need to model? If they don't see the challenges we face, how will they learn how to face challenge themselves? Modeling is a good way to teach children even better than telling them how to be. I agree with you, Susan, but we want to be in our better emotional state when we teach them. When we come home and they see us lost and stressed, and they see us like my parents don't have a solution. There's a situation at home. We kind of give them the opportunity to model that behavior too. As a parent, it's our biggest responsibility to, yes, there's a stressful situation, but children are reactive. They feel sense of uncertainty and unsafety when because parents are in charge, right? So it's kind of the thing of parenting to be that, stronger role model, but also don't make them feel that they live in a life that there's no issues. Of course, explain to them that life is full of issues, especially now. I have older children and we'd always talk about the hardships and all that. I find.
May I add something?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, that is just sharing the experience. I'm coping with that with meditation, right? Breathing exercise is one thing. Some people think meditation is something to go to, do a lotus position or this and that, but it's just act of being present, right? And I don't remember who said this, but once I think Dalai Lama was asked the question, how long should I meditate? It said, 15, 20 minutes a day, it's a good time. Unless you're too busy, then do 1 hour. Right?
That's so, I know, I agree with you. I agree with you. Let me read Lena's comment. I find with each failed attempt to be resilient in a situation, I become less reactionary and think more before interpreting events. I love your comment about forgiving ourselves. Here's what I wanted to mention. Okay, this is what I wanted to mention. So thinking of resilience as a static, something that's not moving is wrong. Resilience is a dynamic feeling or situation or a trait. So think of resilience and be very, very forgiving towards yourself when you wake up another morning and you feel like you don't want to be resilient today. You don't want to be fighting and doing anything. You have low energy. And accept yourself, even those days when you really don't want to do the thing and you just want to be weak and you want to be stressed and you want to cry. Accept yourself those times, be self-forgiving and loving, and allow yourself to feel those feelings, because resilient is something, it's not like we have to achieve it and stay there. It may go up and down. So be very, very self-loving and teach your kids to also express themselves. I taught my son to do an exercise when he feels stressed, he feels nervous, it's an exam, it's something with friends. If we're in a place that he can talk to me about it, he will come and put his hand on my shoulder. And I said, whenever you come and put your hand on my shoulder, I know that you're a little stressed, you're not feeling well. And then I will look at you and I will put my hand on your hand, saying that I hear you, I understood, I acknowledged, and that's how we're going to talk about it. So I know how you're feeling now, because among friends, teenagers, they don't want to show like, okay, I'm upset, mom. So that's how it works. So accept yourself in your highs, accept yourself in your lows. So that's what I think really matters. This is a fantastic, oh, okay. I will take a look at it. So moving further. So those are the 3 P's of resilience, which bring us to the 4th P that I didn't mention here, perseverance. 3 P's are going to bring us to the 4th, perseverance. This next exercise, and to be mindful of our time, we call this, and there's a name for it. It's called the distance principle. What does this mean? Right? It's okay. This is one of my favorite examples, and one of my favorite exercises I do daily is I reframe my setbacks. If something didn't go as I was planning, and we did make a whole big effort to make something happen and didn't happen. The distance principle is to know your progress to date has moved you so much further forward than your misstep has moved you back. In reality, you think you failed, there was a misstep, it didn't go the way you were thinking. But in reality, and if you even put it in a math concept, you actually are still forward. You're failing forward. As I don't like the word failing, but you're failing forward. So the distance principle helps you understand that every time you try something and it doesn't go the way it was supposed to go, you're still moving forward. And when you focus on that, you actually still think you're winning instead of losing. So a lot of companies, a lot of results based, or like a business, in startups, they're training their employees to use the distance principle to evaluate and appreciate the work that's done and actually praise them for the effort. And this is a very useful and 60-second exercise. When you encounter a setback, just please remember your progress to date has moved you so much further than your misstep has moved you back. And I think that's invaluable, because we try, but it's hard, right? We hardly ever focus on the positivity, what was done right versus what was done wrong. So resilient people, going back to our 3P exercise, resilient people focus on what was done, what progress was, made versus did it work out or no. I'm not saying that they're not focused on results. Yes, they are. But if for some reason the results didn't happen and turn out the way they wanted, they focus on still, moving forward. One other thing I wanted to mention is The way you start, you have a goal, the way you start doing a project, it's your career, it's your business. The end result is very important for you, but the way you start it may not end up the way you will finish it, right? The way you will achieve it. So there's many ways of going about that goal and achieving it. So the distance principle teaches you appreciate all your efforts, stay focused, and go towards that big, very, very big purpose of yours without being discouraged by the setbacks. Our last exercise, and by the way, they're very short and effective ones. If you wanted to get a copy of the slides, I will be more than happy to send it to you. The last exercise, we call it memory mining. So memory mining is when we recall memories of challenges that we faced in the past and ask ourselves these 3 questions. Number 1, what assumptions did I make that proved to be wrong? Something happened a year ago. You experienced job difficulty. From my example, I can say 2 or 3 years ago, I was moved from a very high-level clinical position to a lower level position without explanation. So I kind of felt very hurt. I felt I was demoted. I felt I was not appreciated, and I felt really upset about it. Little did I know that my colleague was going through cancer in her family, and I was not demoted, but I was replacing her while she was away off of work. And that was by no means regarding my expertise, my talents, my roles. So my assumption was it was all about me. But in reality, it wasn't about me. It was about that person to be off of work, and I have to cover about that person, right? So what did I do? Assumptions, were they right? No, they were not right. Adversity creates uncertainty, right? Of course, we don't like uncertainty. So we replace it with assumptions, thinking that we are right. And those assumptions are often unhelpful, and they paint a negative picture and distort the truth. So I was assuming I'm demoted, but I wasn't. I went back to my position once she came back. So memory mining is when that happens, dig into your memory and ask yourself, what happened in my life previously that I made wrong assumptions and that proved to be wrong? And what did I learn from it? Moving on to your next question, what behaviors helped me through that circumstance? How did I cope with it? Did I focus on a positive or negative? And the number 3 is, in what ways did I doubt myself at the time? Did I doubt myself that I'm not competent enough? They're demoting me. Sorry, I have to go back to memory mining. Yes, I was all in wrong reality. It was not about me. It was not about my behavior, my competency, my integrity. It was not about how did I do my job. And in what ways did I doubt myself? Yes, I really doubted myself and I was wrong. So memory mining helps you revisit that situation and not to repeat that again in your new situation. So you kind of are learning on your experiences without repeating it. After those exercises, what really helps is, I call them resilience map, building your resilience map. And those are minute action plans, right? We learned about 3 of those. So we need to understand resilience is only 10% what happens to you and 90% on how you react to it. Yes, easier said than done. I get it. It's easier to be talking about it than actually, experiencing it, but everything comes with the desire to do better, right? So writing down your resilience plans, put those goals that are very special, that are very near and dear to your heart. Think about your big why. the biggest purpose you have, your North Star, you know, something that you really have right here, you have to achieve it. And you have those small setbacks on the road to it. Those setbacks are not going to interfere you to achieve those, the big goal you have for yourself. They're just an annoyance. You're going to conquer them, move forward. Conquer, move forward. So building that action plan really helps you to deal with those smaller setbacks along the way while you're accomplishing your big purpose. So I always say that we need those negative experiences, and we need to accept them, and we need to remember them, because they are the reason what you have now, the successes you have, is those negative experiences. When you have those situations in your life, you always think, why is this happening to me? What did I do wrong? What am I doing? What kind of choices I'm making? But you need to trust, you have high trust in yourself and in believing that everything that happens in your mind is an adversity. In your mind, it's a problem. It's a failure. God forbid. You know, I don't like using that word. But remember, everything is preparing you to have and cherish that goal, because without those experiences, all the things you accomplish are not going to be appreciated. So let's imagine you have a very audacious, ambitious, very big goal of changing 10,000 people's lives. Let's imagine we want to create something that's going to change, 10,000 people from living what they were living, the life, and becoming better version of themselves. That's the biggest goal. And you have an employee that's really not doing the work, that's really not helping you with that goal, that's really not being productive. Are you going to let that change your goal? No, you're going to, resolve that situation to move towards that goal. So we're about an hour into our webinar, and I'm actually getting right, to the end. And I want to say something. Staying strong is not easy. It's an everyday work. But appreciate yourself. Forgive yourself for your shortcomings, and try to do 10% better than you did yesterday. You will always be a different person by appreciating and really acknowledging all kinds of hardships you've had, because you are who you are because of them. And I want to read something very interesting here. It says, what happens to us becomes part of us. Resilient people do not bounce back from hard experiences. They find healthy ways to integrate them into their lives. In time, people find that great calamity met with great spirit, and both together can create great strength. This was an author, Eric Greitens, and the book is Resilience, Hard-Won Wisdom for Living a Better Life. Resilience is a dynamic, I don't want to say feeling, trait, it's a dynamic concept. Always know that you're going to be up and down with your feelings, with your strengths and weaknesses. But once you learn from one setback, utilize them in your life. Be aware of what happened. And hopefully that will take you to a more successful place and happier place than you were before. I want to thank all of you for attending and giving your time in this busy holiday season. I put social media links here, and they're all active links. If you want, I can send it to you. You can connect with me through LinkedIn, Instagram, and my webpage. I want to thank my dear friend Anna again for making this opportunity happen, because I felt like end of the year, reflecting on the whole year, reflecting on our mission, vision, values, and resilience was a really useful topic to discuss, because not only we're going to look back and really see what didn't happen this year, but from today on, we're going to look back and count everything that happened and everything that went right and everything that really did, serve its purpose. Thank you, Susan. And from now on, we're going to focus on what's working versus what's not working. Not, experiencing or exercising toxic optimism and be all optimistic all day, but very, very realistic on the goals, on the purpose, on the mission, because a lot of times we do underappreciate who we truly are. And once we know that our purpose is honest, is high purpose, then we do not get caught up in that drama of what went wrong. And we only focus how hard we tried today, because truly living in this day and age, every day we wake up, we are resilient. We don't even know how strong we are until we look back at our day and say, hey, we got this all accomplished. So I want to thank you all. Thank you to both Annas for making this happen. And hopefully we will have more similar events in person or live. Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you, Dr. Ani. It was a pleasure having you.
Jan, can you stop sharing your screen, please, so we can all see each other? Perfect.
Yes, so it was a pleasure having you in our monthly webinar. And of course, as we discussed, we will bring more hands-on practical exercises, sessions, perhaps breath work separately, meditation separately, and share with our audience, with our AIWA members, the quick tips, how they can help themselves and help their loved ones to manage stress in a more healthy way, so that by that they can develop the healthier resilience.
Absolutely. The only reason I didn't bring breathwork to the picture, because it would have been too many exercises.
Right. Modalities are so many,
yes.
right? Modalities are so many. And as we discussed, we will put small bites for our listeners, for our participants, for them to pick, because it's individual, right? For some people, meditation is doing the thing. For some people, it's the breath work, or for some people, it's just walk on the streets in the nature, or whatever it is, right? So we will bring all these modalities, mix and match with the personality types, right? With the environment assessment, because in the beginning you were mentioning how important the environment is for the resilience. Many people even don't know that the light that they're using, how the light is distributed in their house or in their workplace, could also be stressing, add to their stress, right? We will bring all these interesting topics to our listeners as we move forward, calling the 2014 Resilient You.
Absolutely. I love that.
2024.
2024.
2024.
And maybe we'll ask
right?
Dr. Ani to come back and do the breathwork exercise, because I know it's amazing. And then maybe we'll give our members an opportunity to participate in that.
Sure.
Wonderful idea. I think for breathwork, we absolutely need a separate session to feel focused, to, kind of like really intuitively do it.
Thank you again, everyone.
Someone is interested, message us. Whoever is interested in breathwork, don't forget, message us. We will always schedule that.
Thanks again, and happy holidays and Merry Christmas. And thank you, Ani Jan. Thank you very much.
Thank you as well. And I wish all of you
Merry Christmas,
peaceful, Merry Christmas and happiest
New Year.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye-bye.